99% of the time, like the first one is, what is my life purpose? And sometimes people relate to the concept of purpose as if there is this big supreme being up in the sky that they're here to do its bidding, or they have to be like exactly like just be on task, because then when they do the thing that they're supposed to be doing, then they are the good girl or the good boy, like again, this need for external validation. But what I'm finding in my own life, and working with my clients when I talk to their higher self, is that the purpose is always being or going for the joy.
Welcome to a new episode of New Earth Awakening. Today, we welcome to the show the amazing Jeroen de Wit.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Carol. We've just been practicing saying my name, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's always
And
a
I
bit
think
here to do a dog and pony show to boost her ego. And I don't know. I mean, I liked her. She's a Gemini as well. We had a great connection, but I just didn't know who this woman was. So my way of dealing with that was to ask about lots of trivial, mundane details about that lifetime. Like, what are you wearing? Like, what are you drinking? What does it look like? Like, how do you call you have nicknames for your kids? Or, very trivial, mundane shit that she couldn't have researched possibly. So we did lots of that. Like, I remember like one of the important days in that lifetime that we explored, she was walking through the parking lot at the Yankee Stadium where she was going to watch her son Lou play for the first time. And so I'm quizzing her about like, well, you're going to go watch a game. What are you having any snacks or anything to drink? To see, if she could come up with something that we could tie in with this, the 30s and 40s of the last century. And she goes, yeah, we're having like warm nuts. And I go like, is it like burnt peanuts or something? She goes, no, I think it is like chestnuts. And chestnuts, she's from Southern California, and she had never even seen a chestnut because they don't grow here. And so she had to really like try to figure out what those nuts were. And I asked, like, what do you drink? Are you drinking anything? And she says, yes, we're having a cola. No American-born person would refer to a Coke, we would call it, or a soft drink, as a cola. We wouldn't say that. That was like a different time, like bleeding into her language even. So there were lots of those like trivial details that we were able to like explore together. And the next day, I'm driving on the freeway, I get a call from her, and she calls me and she goes, oh my God, she goes, I can't believe it. The stuff that you found out about, like she would refer to specific instances. Like, also I asked her about the scoreboard in the stadium that she was at, like how was that operated? She said it's like manually done with like, the little boards that would be flipped over manually to keep track of the score. And she found that board, like she sent me a picture of it. So there was lots of stuff that blew our minds where, she ended up knowing about these things that for lived experience. She came back 2 more times for sessions, and we would go back into the same lifetime of Christina Garrick. I've never had this happen again, where a person would, in different sessions, go into the same lifetime. We would explore different parts of it. She was born in Germany and then came over on a boat to the United States. So we've explored that whole part, and then the part, the latter part of her life after her son Lou had died. And so I asked her higher self, like, this is remarkable, but why do we have to go back to this lifetime over and over? And so it shared that she was to like mine the regression experience for verifiable details that she could go and fact check with living descendants and relatives of the Garrick family, and then write a book about it. And that because the book would have the subject of baseball and this level of energy healing, really brought back health for me, and a sense of well-being, and feeling like I was worthy to be on the ground that I walked on, which I hadn't felt before. I felt completely unworthy and not good enough and all those things. So, to feel those big rewards of doing this kind of work, it really propelled me forward to wanting to investigate and explore and learn more energy healing technique, because it was so tangible for me. So I studied Reiki. I did level 1 and level 2. And then I studied EMF balancing technique that was developed by Peggy Phoenix Dubrow. I studied quantum touch. This is all while I was doing bioenergetic therapy myself. I did this for like 14 years with an amazing woman in Amsterdam. What else did I do? I dabbled in Nam Rasayan. When I moved to the States, I took some shamanic courses. I did a bachelor's in art therapy. That was a beautiful, beautiful training. It was like university study. It was just more like therapy for myself, where I really learned about the inner world and how to express and how to be in the world. It was very, very valuable. And what else did I learn? I can't remember. I did a bunch of EFT as well, emotional freedom technique, the tapping. Some Satnam Rasayan. I don't know if I mentioned that. I learned some of Viana Stabal's like theta healing stuff. This is not an official course. I just read her book and I incorporated in the healing that I was doing at the time. I started to work with clients, and then while I was still healing myself, and then I found out about Dolores Cannon. I was visiting a healer friend, and on his coffee table was a book with like an alien on the cover, and it said Custodians for the title. And so I picked it up, started leafing through it, and this was the second time in my life that I found something, in my outside world that really reflected back to me that this big part of myself that I had not found in the world, thus far, was actually there. It was, so I recognized myself because I had felt like I didn't belong, like, this world was really weird. And I thought I was really weird, that there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't fit into like normal relationships, normal jobs. Like being in the world was just really alien to me. And so when I read Dolores Cannon's book, it's like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. This really, I recognized it, even though, I didn't have specific memories. There was a sense of knowing, and just of like what my identity was more aligned with what was described in those books. So I looked her up. This was back in 2006, and found out that she was teaching in the Netherlands, which is where I still lived, like 3 months away from the moment that I picked up that book. And at the time, there were like requirements to be able to join her course, and I had just met them going through my art therapy training. And I was able to train with her in person in The Hague in the Netherlands. It was a very small class. Dolores Cannon is a name, it's like a household name now. Everybody knows about her. At least everybody that's into like this kind of stuff. And so, but at the time, it was just, a few people that knew about her. And so it was a very small class, like 12 people from all over Europe. And I was completely in awe of this lady. She, I thought it was very funny how the way that she looked was very different from, the stuff that she would talk about. That was kind of tickled me, because she looks like a church lady, like a white church lady from the Midwest, and then she opens her mouth and all this like amazing wisdom rolls out. So funny. But it was really inspiring to me, because he was somebody with such like amazing she'd done so much research and written all those books, and the way that she presented the information was with such confidence and wisdom, that it was just, if you can imagine, like for me to be out in the world and never having seen that, and not having my inner world sort of spoken about with such confidence, like, yes, this is fucking true. It was so inspiring. So once I took that class, I just couldn't wait to do all this work. And so as many people as I could work with, I would work with. At the time, it was just me and some other hippies that were already into this stuff. But then as I, throughout the years, it's my 19th year in practice right now. It's just been amazing how since about 2014 or 15, the uptick in the type of people and the amount of people that are delving into this work to wake up it's amazing. Like, it's not just the hippies anymore. It's like everybody from all walks of life. It's really amazing. So, in this, I'm still healing myself as well. And so I moved to the United States in 2007, and, had to like work, like just a job. I was a spa manager for a long time. I lost my partner at the time, really traumatically. It caused me to seek out therapy again, and like lots of healing practices. And coming out of it, I did feel more solid as a person. The silver lining was that I had like tackled my codependency that I had in relationships. I would always attract like the emotionally unavailable guys, and so then I didn't have to do that anymore. It was quite amazing. I mean, I've done a lot of self-help and healing, and I think it's so, I think everybody should go do this, because what you get out of it is you get the you get to know yourself, and as you get to know yourself, you know that you are part of God or source or goddess, creator. So and that's what I want for myself, and that's what I want for the people that I work with, because I really think that's the only way that we're going to change this world. I mean, it is changing, but by moving or purging ourselves from all the generations of trauma and limiting belief systems about ourselves, or living ourselves through the labels that have been put upon us, or the messages of unworthiness, or not being good enough, or having to perform the boy programming or the girl programming, or any kind of other programming. So as I was purging those for myself, I just found light and joy and beauty and magnificence. And so if that's me, then that's everybody else. So this is what I want for the world, because I think when we drop from our mind-based existence, we're pushed out of our bodies as we take on this programming, because we're being taught that we are not good enough. The different aspects to who we are, like for myself, it was being gay and genderqueer, and being, I call it like consciousness-based existence versus carbon-based existence. Like this world has run on the idea that we're just carbon-based creatures and we're going through life. I had always known that everything is consciousness. I mean, I didn't have language for it. I just felt it, And so um, as I'm recovering this truth for myself, and seeing that happen in other people, and once we like leave the confines of our mind and drop back into the body and the heart, it's easier to connect from the heart and love and accept everyone and everything, from, instead of like having to judge them or make them wrong or attack them, stuff like that. I mean, it's a journey, but that's how I think we are awakening and changing the world. I guess that's my story.
In a small nutshell.
In a small nutshell, yes.
Awesome. Well, I totally resonate with all that you said. And I love how you describe awakening as dropping from the mind space into the heart. That's just so spot on. It's like instead of living from fear to living from love. Like, I don't know. It's just mind blowing. Like, okay, let's start by speaking about some basics, right? About BS, belief systems, and the other word if you wish to. And I also say BS. It's also about beneficial systems, right?
Yeah.
So tell me your perception on BS in general, and how you worked on your own BS. Basically, people projecting things upon you, kind of, and expecting you to behave this way, or be this way, or even feel some specific way.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different aspects to it. Like for myself, I am a very feeling type of person. Like my main clair, I think, is clairsentience. And so, excuse me, I'm from a culture that is very, in my experience, very rational and very cerebral, and it's very much like kind of in a mental space, focused. Like I remember, I mean, people in the Netherlands know about this. If you act out of bounds, like in public spaces, people will tell you to act normal. I mean, it's literally a thing. They will tell you to act normal, do normal, they say. So, coming in with such an amount of like sensitivity, feeling, and being in this completely rational space was really tricky. I just didn't recognize anything. I didn't understand why people made the decisions they did, or how could they be cruel to each other. So I knew that nature was a place of solace for myself. That was the only space that I could feel like myself. So it was about feeling. It was also about what I just shared, like conscious-based existence versus karma-based existence, that kind of knowing of like that everything is consciousness. I would look for proof of other world all the time. I could feel it, but I couldn't see it. I remember going for walks in the forest with my parents, and then kind of looking in the hollows of trees for like little chairs and tables that the fairies might have left, and or like fairy wings. I would always be looking for it, never seeing it really. So again, that was another program that was just running, that I don't think we're aware of, or a lot of people aren't aware of. We're in a very specific mental space in our societies, of what is validated and seen as worthy and good and acknowledged, and what is not, and not even being aware of like a whole bunch of stuff that that comes in with us that is just not acknowledged. I mean, our educational systems as well, they're so super limited. They don't teach us how to be in a relationship with ourselves. They really, there plays no importance of that at all. Instead, they really grab our focus and place it in the world outside, and teach us about all that stuff. So that it's kind of the opposite to me, if you ask me. Like, instead of being in school and and maybe having everybody like learn through art or through nature, and discuss how everybody's so different and how they experience life, and do you see or feel guides or angels, and what's your experience, star families, or just like how to be in relationship to yourself and to others, and what makes you come alive, and what do you love to do, and where's your joy. I think those are things that are way more valuable to go by, because then you're teaching people to be whole human beings. And and of course, if you move forward like learning about this, and you want to write a book, or you want to read a book, like then you're going to have to learn how to read, or like calculate, or stuff like that. So it's more like, I mean, those are like secondary to learning to be like 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 an express, like an authentic, expressive human being. I think that's way more important. So yeah, our educational system, and then, oh God, don't start me on religion, like terrible, like Jesus. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, I mean, I think basically most religions, the psychology of most religions is that they tell you in some form or another that you are a piece of, Catholicism, you're a sinner, you suck, and there's this almighty like male patriarchal God in the sky that you have to do certain things to gain its favor or its love. I mean, how fucked up is that? I mean, to be in that kind of bind, and nobody quite knows the rules of what this denomination think they do, and but the other one, says is no, you got to wear long skirts, because if you show your knees, like, Jesus might get a hard on, and that shit hits the fan, or I don't know why, I don't know, but all these crazy rules, like, but I mean, it's such a disempowering bind to be in, because you're never going to get there. You're never going to think like, I am good enough, I'm worthy. You're still going to be in this like codependent, disempowering bind to this narcissistic idea of God. It's horrible. So I mean, I think it's deliberate, that people are actually, talking about the work that I'm doing. I am now a full-time past life regressionist. I see people every day, and I take them through different lifetimes. I had a regression with a woman from the Middle East. She had no background in like Christianity or Catholicism, and in a past life we find her in the Vatican, in like the basement of the Vatican, and she's like secretly reading some kind of scripture. So I asked her about it, and I asked, like, what are you reading about? And she goes, well, it's about the Messiah, and it's forbidden because basically it says that we don't need man-made institutions or middlemen, to be in communion with God, because we are God. So she said she would expose these people like that were running the Vatican at the time, and she did. She went into like marketplaces and spoke about it. She was tried with heresy, and she was she was done away with. So but yeah, it was, and she said, oh, the people that run the Vatican, they run the world. This was back in the 1600s, and they know that they don't even believe what they're preaching is just a way to like keep people small, and to subjugate them and like extract wealth. So this is like a familiar system, I think, that we're in, in many different ways. So politically as well, I think because we have lost our relationship to our true nature, we become susceptible to needing authority or some kind of external power to tell us about who we are. We become susceptible to taking on these labels that give us a sense of value, or like fitting in, or at least being safe in the survival based systems that we're in. So as long as we are not in relationship with our own truth. And I'm really not talking about, when we start this journey of spiritual awakening, we often become like spiritual librarians, meaning we're reading and we're listening to a lot of stuff, and it's helpful, yes, but that's not where it stops. After that, we have to do the work, the inner work, to go into relationship with ourselves. We can't just stay in the headspace with all the information buzzing around. We have to like create space back in the body by releasing all of these programs that we have taken on, by, there's so many different options now. There's plant medicine, there is QHHT, there's all kinds of energy work, there's somatic work, there's breath work. Like for me, bioenergetics was really helpful, like the body work, where you really access the unprocessed information that's held within the body. There's so much beautiful stuff out there. Even talk therapy, if you've already like reconnected with your feelings and your body, then talk therapy can also be very helpful. So yeah, I think that is our antidote, our inoculation against those destructive systems that that other the human beings in the world, that make us have to be superior or inferior, or extract resources from each other or the planet or animals, without the consideration of other beings, other environments being part of source as well. And instead of being in trying to live in symbiosis or synergy, or to be in relationship to all of that and honor the relationship and the uniqueness of all the other expressions that are here. I think we're all the point the universe is trying to make, and we are here to live that authenticity. We're not here on planet Earth to live the same white male Christian masculine patriarchal version of a human being. There's nothing wrong. Exactly, there's nothing wrong with any of those aspects, but it's just one of many, and you do you, and I do me, and there shouldn't be any rules about how stay in your lane, like of how telling another person how to live your life. I think we're all on our own unique journeys, and if your journey includes like harming others and the animals and earth, there should be some restrictions put to that while you figure that out, so it doesn't bleed out to other people's lives. But yeah, I think we're basically here to express God as just as you are, with all the uniqueness, including all the parts that we were taught were not good enough, or demonized, or closeted, or everything that we heard or took on as being wrong about ourselves. So talking about the BS again, So I think I've mentioned a lot, of course, like sexuality and gender is a big thing for me. Um, especially when I hear now about, thank God my people are more vocal and visible now, at least in our Western societies, where people express in gender non-conformative ways. But I also heard in spiritual communities like, oh, there's this big evil trans movement happening where, it's somehow evil, they're corrupting the children. That's not what's happening at all. We have come to the planet to break the old paradigms of the gender separation, and the gender boxes. So, and people feel uncomfortable with that because their feelings touch on the internalized programming about their own gender, and having not been able to express the fluidity of who they are themselves, and that's triggering stuff, and instead of like thinking that you're using that discomfort to like reach out and try to control your external environment, that's not healing. That is not being in a loving society. So so I think it's really important that for everybody to live their authenticity, even if you're not, any part of any of those groups, because you have your own magic. Everybody brings their own brand of magic. And so basically we have, like, I don't know how many people in the world there are now, but like 8 billion untapped resources of magnificence and genius. If everybody were able to express their own uniqueness and their own talents, their own purpose. You mentioned purpose as well. So yeah, so I deal with this a lot in my work. So when people come into my sessions, they bring in a list of questions, and I would say 99% of the time, like the first one is, what is my life purpose? And sometimes people relate to the concept of purpose as if there is this big supreme being up in the sky that they're here to do its bidding, or they have to be like exactly like just be on task, because then when they do the thing that they're supposed to be doing, then they are the good girl or the good boy, like, again, this need for external validation. But what I'm finding in my own life, and working with my clients when I talk to their higher self, is that the purpose is always being or going for the joy. I mean, purpose is a journey. It's learning to expand. It's learning how to expand consciousness through the limitations that we experience here on Earth. We live in a duality-based world where we learn through contrast. So the journey, being in purpose, is to uncover or come back home to the self. And you know once you gain access to yourself, what it is that you want to do with your life, with your days, your hours, your minutes, that becomes the external expression of purpose, because it's completely joy informed. It's not having to do things. It's stuff that really feels good to you. And it's often a direct expression of the journey that we've had thus far. I've being alive on the planet, I've had the education of what it's like to not fit in at all and to feel completely unworthy, and then to be on the journey of undoing all of that damage. And I'm still on that journey to recovering the truth of who I am. And so, having had my education in knowing what that's like, and with that came empathy and compassion. I have the knowledge or the wisdom that can be, I have a very specific brand of my own wisdom, my own knowledge, that I can now use as medicine for other people to help them on their journey, hopefully. And it's not like I'm not sitting here saying like, well, I have the truth or the wisdom. Everybody goes through their own journey of healing. And if you're here to be like one of the light workers, which is lots of us right now, having gone through a journey like that, you can inform and you can help your fellow, light workers, or like the other people on the planet, to on parts of their journey. And so I think joy and being able to be of service, if that's part of your path right now, are great indicators of life purpose. Yeah, and your past, what you've had to go through, it also points towards that. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's like experience beats any kind of information. If you've gone through that and you've healed it, to a point where you are able to share it with other people,
Yeah.
that be any kind of certification or whatever it is. Although
Yes.
it's awesome when people have a lot of certifications in Reiki and QHHT and all of that, I admire that. I find it totally cool. But yeah, and also what you said about the differences between us, I find it very interesting to listen to other people. How is your experience? Why are you doing it? Like, what makes your heart sing while doing that? Explain it to me. It's like it doesn't have to diminish my own experience. It doesn't have to change my own experience in any kind of way, but I can still be interested in listening to others people's experiences and why they do it and what's amazing about that for them. And also, you were saying that we came here to break it down. Exactly. That's totally my opinion. We came here to break it all to the ground so that it can be rebuilt anew.
I
So,
agree. Yeah. And I think it's not as much done through like fighting or to be antagonistic, even though, I feel very antagonistic when I see the stuff that's going on in the world, but it's more about like, loving ourselves back into wholeness, and that having that rippled out. And, and as we purge the brutality that has been, done to us for centuries, for eons, and we get to know the love that we are, and knowing that other people and animals in the world are love as well. We will, I think we will find solutions for our life that are not destructive or exploitative, and judging others or different cultures or different expressions of source. Yeah. And instead we will have loving and sustainable regenerative practices to be on the planet with each other that do not harm others. Because as we
exactly.
get to know that we are, goddess, then we know that everything else is too. And why would you want to continue to harm yourself or others? Yeah. So
Exactly. Like my awakening was when I realized this first hermetic law that you're speaking about, that the all is consciousness, everything is consciousness, everything is made out of God. Each one of us is. So, therefore, how can like say anything about anybody else? And also, with our experiences of being the ones who were the weirdos or different in some kind of way, um, we have we have had so many experiences that, first of all, in my experience, it's been like, how can I judge anybody else for doing anything? Because I have been that person before. So how it would be judging myself. And technically, it is. Whenever you judge anything, you're judging yourself. So
yeah.
let's go into exactly that, because you are me from another point of view. Technically, duality and linear time are illusions. They are only here to help us with this game, kind of. Then also, we have the construct of choosing love over fear, which is in this universe. But there are other universes that are about choosing other things, you know. So I bet you've heard about that as well in your sessions. And as within, so without, you already touched on that when you said, if that is me, that's going to be also the people I attract who want to be healed with me, with my modalities. And also how Earth can be a place of true love or hell, and all of that depends on your state of consciousness. I've
Mm.
said a lot, but I'm sure you can keep up with that, and maybe you can tell us something about the wisdom that has been shared from the higher selves of other people as well.
Sure. See, that's a lot what you just mentioned. Let me think about where to start. I mean, I love what you shared as within, so without. That is the mechanism here through which we learn on the planet. We live in a benevolent universe. things are always happening for us, you know, how regardless how dire they might seem, you know, it is, I believe in that. Like we kind of live in our own sort of hologram where the experiences that we're having are reflections of our inner reality. So for me, being with like narcissistic partners, you know, and if any of my partners are listening, it might not be you. I've been with some really great guys too, but I definitely have had that experience. I
In
don't have that
Germany, we say everybody who is in the room is excluded automatically.
Okay. Yes, thank you. So, I mean, I doubt I would hear this anyway, but yeah, so I mean, if I was being gaslighted by my partner, you know, it was really a sign of me gaslighting my own inner experience. That's really what happened. And so, you know, experiencing the pain of that, or like being pushed into like being triggered in unworthiness and not feeling good enough, that was my prompt to know that, you know, school is in session. And this is actually, I also, I forgot to mention this, I have a master's in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. It's like the best school I've ever been in, and this is really where a lot of what I kind of knew on the inside was made explicit. It was made, you know, put language to it, and it really shaped and formed how I am with clients and kind of like my worldview. And it's all about this, you know, external experience is a reflection of inner reality, and that is the mechanism through which we learn here on Earth. Please give me a reminder what else you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, basically, like how duality and linear time are also illusions that we
Yes.
just require to be able to have like a movie going on.
Yes. Yeah. So when I talk to the soul in sessions, we hear this a lot, you know, me and my colleagues, that there is no time from the perspective of the soul, that it is a construct that has been created to help us learn the type of lessons that we came here to learn. And also that we opted into, you know, as a soul getting ready for this lifetime. It is not, well, I've heard different things. So there seem to be different experiences possible. If you decide as a soul that you're going to have like a whole bunch of experiences on Earth, then you might just start out by just recycling through experiences. You just go in, you come out, and you go back in. There's not a lot of learning or reflecting yet, or life reviews. It's more about like gaining the boots on the ground kind of experience, just being in a body and doing those things. I've seen that, but then, you know, if we come in as a soul that wants to impart more knowledge or more vibration, we get, or even, you know, more experienced souls in the earth realm. Like after a while, we gain more interest in designing the experience more specifically to learn specific things. And so we set that up. We, like the most narcissistic boyfriends that I might have had, you know, on the other side, we might have like high-fived and say, hey, you know, I'm really on a journey. I'm going to be learning about self-love because I need it for my, you know, for how to be of service on the planet. Can you step in and be this like asshole boyfriend and like, you know, dog me around and be a total dick so I can really feel what it's like to not love myself, and then finally push through that and learn how to love myself. So, you know, I get this question sometimes where people go like, oh my God, like my parents or my upbringing or my partner, you know, what have we been into in other lifetimes? I want to make sure that we like rip up the contract because I never want to be with them again. You know, and then we find out that on the other side, like it was completely opted into, like it was totally, you know, it's not, those kinds of divisions do not exist in the higher planes. It's all love and it's all about learning, and you know, we plan this, you know, including, I mean, the whole human experience. So it's all a push to expand consciousness. I don't know about you, but when I look back at like the horrific experiences I've had of the like losing my partner in a really traumatic way, or my horrible spiritual awakening, you know, coming out of that, it's, both of them have really, you know, allowed me to rekindle the relationship with myself. Having to work, being forced to take my focus off of the external validators and determinants of what I thought my identity, was, and instead having to really feel the pain and figure that out. The pain is often, a very loud prompt for us to be in relationship with ourselves, where we cannot continue to just coast along in the external world and buy the things and fill the void with stuff and TV and phones and food and sex and all this stuff, but instead being prompted to be in relationship with the self. So I don't know, did I go off on a tangent? I can't remember what I was talking about.
You were talking about the illusions of this world that are here to help us.
Oh yes, thank you.
But,
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I really believe that we live in a benevolent universe, that life is always happening for us. Even if it's time to check out, like, we're not here forever. This is just a temporary journey. It's not like you're going to be gone or annihilated. We're just going to check out of the body, and there's going to be more adventures. So yeah, it's not that serious. Yeah. I mean, through this work, and the inner work that I've been doing, and then working with people's higher selves all the time, it's helped me see our identity, and including my own. We're not this body right here, right now. I mean, we are an expression of it, but the core of our identity, is in this other realm or place that is really like we are eternal travelers. And RuPaul had a quote from RuPaul, and he said it so beautifully. He said, "We're all just God playing dress up." And it's for a bit. You try on this outfit and you see how it works, and then you learn from it, and then you go back and you go try something else.
that's beautiful. You were speaking about some souls coming in and just like having a little dive, not a lot of growth, but just like testing it or something like that. Does that tie into the well, I've heard that there are earthly souls, starseed souls, and angelic souls. Like there are people who differentiate in these type of wordings. Um, what's your point of view on that?
I think that as humans and through our human mind, we need to quantify and qualify things because that's how we are on this planet. But I don't think there are these strict boundaries. On the other side, I think we are all eternal, and we've lived different spaces, different places. We're all connected anyway. And so I think we deliberately, as a soul, decide what experiences to bring into this particular existence, or which ones are like, it's like your main face that you're going to be using in this time, for the purpose of doing your purpose. So yes, we've all lived in other planets, galaxies, because we are source. And so, but we don't all choose to bring that vibration into this current lifetime, because it might not be helpful in the kind of life, the kind of path that we decided to walk on. So it's not, I mean, in the beginning, when I first started doing this work, I'll be like, oh my God, this is an angelic soul. It's amazing. And, I think everybody's amazing. We just choose to bring in different things right now. And I think it's really important. I mean, it's important that there is language for it, because it, again, like it scrambles the old paradigm of like, what? People are claiming these things for themselves. Like, that's really, a kick in the nuts to like the religious beliefs of like, all that stuff is outside of us, and we are disempowered and not good enough, and now finding out that we are God and all of it. So it is important to have that language and to use those temporary labels, for to explain experiences, because of it helps to expand consciousness and awareness for other people, and to also help others to see those parts of themselves, or to like bounce that off of like how you have felt. So I mean, when I ask these questions to the higher self, it can go into like the human explanation of it, like, well, this is an earth soul, they've done most lives on earth, or they might have split off from source and just done a lot of earth lives, or I mean, but source is everything. The information is all there. So, or it might be like somebody who has, you know, a lot of experience being in the angelic space, because that's just something that they wanted to learn and wanted to do, and then to bring that experiences into the current lifetime. So for me, like the architecture of our personality now is comprised of so many different parts, and all of these parts have deliberately been brought in to for us to be on this healing journey, to know what it's like to push through or to transform the limitations, and to bring that vibration, to anchor it on the planet. Yeah, to help elevate consciousness. That's my kind of, I mean, it's forever changing because all the information that comes in, but that's the best that I can do right now with my poor human mind, you know, to like try and make an abstract way, sort of sense of it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I like how you say that. I tend to say we are the ETs. So there's nothing to fear unless you fear yourself, but in which case you need to know thyself maybe a little bit.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So let's speak about your process, the process of QHHT. I'm curious about finding out if the people who come to you are more in a state of survival and they feel like they need to connect with their higher selves in order to be okay somehow here, or how that comes about. And if somebody comes in a survival mode to you, how does it affect the sessions?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, so I do get those people that are in those places. It's often people that are in crisis, you know, be it physical or financial, relationship, or whatever else like is happening that's making their life fall apart. Um, but I would say most people that I get to work with, they have just been on this path of spiritual awakening. They might have like done a, you know, plant medicine journey, or something else that happened where, you know, their old paradigm was like tripped or scrambled, and they go like, what the fuck's happening? You know, I need to like get a deeper dive and see, you know, like who I really am. Which is like, I mean, that's really my favorite thing to work with, because I feel like I'm like midwifing somebody into like their authenticity and their beauty and magnificence. Um, and it's hard to say like the kind of like sessions they will have in terms of content. I mean, in general, maybe they would go into more like other realm sort of lives, but it's not for sure. If somebody comes in with a like from a survival place, it's really more about like finding the pilot light that's been burning, but it's been covered over, like the pilot light of their own inner self, because these people are, you know, they've been taught, as we all have, to be safe in the world, you have to like check a you know, number of boxes, and they might still be in that kind of mindset to do that. And so during a session, they will find like the counterweight to that, like which is them, which is their authenticity and their essence. And so that's very helpful, because then they have this other point of view, or this other navigational drive within themselves to start to explore that life with more joy and more slowing down and more expression, and connecting to nature, connecting to themselves. So to those sessions really function often as just creating that first opening into being able to relate back to themselves, to really experience that there is something there inside of them, that's been there all along, that can be like an antidote to having to take on all those codependent survival mechanisms. Yeah. So yeah, the survival sort of place, then the new place, and then also yeah, people that have been on this path for a long time, which is like lovely, because you can work. I mean, it's these sessions are really intelligent, and I mean, not to say that the other ones aren't, but there's so much more access. So lots of like more subtle energy can come in, and lots of more knowledge, and or more like specific, very yeah, subtle knowledge. And also these people, if they have if they have the experience of navigating their inner realms, it's easier for them to like toggle between the different parts of their consciousness. And it's not like you don't have to fear that they will be taking themselves out of their process. And it's really easy to toggle between the different parts. Like some people might bring in some guides. There might be the higher self might be there, like some alien might pop in, and being able to toggle between all of them is really, I mean, for me, being a Gemini and not liking routine, that's always super fun. Like I get to experience these different beings, as different personalities through my clients. And that's just so much fun. Yeah, it's really, really amazing.
Wow. Okay, so let's speak about access to the higher self.
Yes.
How does it come about with these different types of people that you come across? And the coolest, most incredible lifetimes that you have heard of so far.
Okay. I have to think about that. So how do people connect to the higher self? I mean, the process itself, it's like, a 4+ hour session. People would bring in, they would bring in, and it's designed as a one-time thing. So you don't have to come in over and over again. So people would prepare a list of questions regarding their lives that they want answers or healing for. About all the human experiences that we have here. It could be about trauma, or, what's my life purpose, or having had really weird paranormal experiences, wanting to find out about that, or if people like really know that they come from a different planet, or they remember pre-birth, stuff like that, to find out more about that. And then we first like just sit down and we get to know the person. We build rapport. We talk about their life. It's for them to like get comfortable in the space and with you as a practitioner, but also for us to get a more thorough backstory to what's happening, which allows us to ask more effective questions once we talk to the higher self. And then they just lay down on a comfortable space, like on a couch, sofa, bed, whatever it is. And then you'll take them through the induction, and we explore a different lifetime. And how the connection happens is we kind of the language that we're using, or the visualization technique that Dolores Cannon developed, it takes us gently from the mind, like left hemisphere in the brain, to the right, which is where the connection is to the all that is, the intuition, the feelings, the intuitions. I said that twice. But yeah, so it's a gentle process of really being in a state of play within ourselves. So whenever we imagine, we temporarily suspend the critical faculty of our analytical mind, and we allow ourselves to play. And when you look at kids playing, they are playing out of just joy and being in a moment, and are concerned with making money, or are they going to get likes on Instagram, or going to get paid for what they're doing. They're just like really feeling like, now I want to do this, now I want to do this, now I want to do that. And this is when we're in the moment and we are receptive to the innate connection, or the innate identity of what we are, which is goddess. So that's what the induction does. A lot of people think hypnosis means that they're kind of like stupid, or their ego self has to like completely be kicked to the curb. Yes, that's not what it is at all. It's just like it creates an extension within the focus within our consciousness to feel that kind of conscious mind part, but to focus on the other part that is always there. And the induction does that. And then when people are gently led into like exploring the imagery or the senses that are dropping into their mind's eye, it's a very intentional space as well. So that also helps. They when you help them to trust that experience more and more and more, they just gradually lose more of that focus on the conscious mind, and they sink into like the more expansive other part of who they really are. And then once you've done that for like 45 minutes, then they're like cooked enough to like access the higher self, because it's a very small step into that part, because they're already there. Yeah.
Wow. And some cool, incredible life that you
Oh yeah.
have heard of.
I mean, there's so much. I've done like thousands of sessions. And it's so normal to me now. So let me think. Do you want to hear about like physical healing or like historical figures that we found or like alien lives or um,
All of that, in
all of
short.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me start with the most like the ones that I talk about a lot is this was at the beginning of my career. So I was still, coming from the Netherlands, being sort of skeptical about like these crazy Americans like telling me all these things, like, is it really true? So I remember, this woman came into my office and she shares this life, events with me where she has a son, Christian, who at age 2 started telling her that he used to be a tall German baseball player. Now, my client was from a Christian background, and she didn't really understand and just thought like my kid has like a vivid imagination. But he expressed an interest in baseball. He said, that he used to be a tall German baseball player, but also that he remembers her being his mom in that lifetime. And so she would take him around to like baseball like games or like have him play, and she would take him to the Dodger Stadium here in Los Angeles. And like little Christian saw a poster of Babe Ruth on the wall. Babe Ruth is a legendary American baseball player from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, I think, of the last century. And Christian had such a like emotional response to seeing that person. He said, this is a really bad person. We had a big fight. It's he's bad, negative, to the point where, she saw that there was stuff going on with him that was not just, imagination. So trying to figure this out, she would go, talk to her pastor about it. And the pastor said, well, he's possessed. We need to do an exorcism. And she goes like, wait. I'm not going to do that to my kid. Let me just find out, get a second opinion. So she found out about reincarnation and did lots of research. And finally she came like through my office doors and with this story. And so I go, well, I don't know what your higher self will show you. You're here for healing. So we'll find out what happened. So, we go into the session and it becomes pretty clear really quick that she is describing the life of Christina Gehrig, Lou Gehrig's mom. Lou Gehrig was an American, legendary baseball player who died of Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. So she was very detailed in her recall and her memory of that life. And I'm sitting there thinking like, this is crazy. And did she research this? Is she just like here to like, do a dog and pony show to like boost her ego? And I don't know. I mean, I liked her. She's a Gemini as well. We had a great connection, but I just didn't know who this woman was. So my way of dealing with that was to ask about lots of trivial, mundane details about that lifetime. Like, what are you wearing? Like, what are you drinking? What does it look like? Like, how do you call do you have nicknames for your kids? Or, very trivial, mundane shit that she couldn't have researched possibly. So we did lots of that. Like I remember like one of the important days in that lifetime that we explored, she was walking through the parking lot at the Yankee Stadium where she was going to watch her son Lou play for the first time. And so I'm quizzing her about like, well, you're going to go watch a game. What are you having any snacks or anything to drink? To see, if she could come up with something that we could tie in with this, the 30s and 40s of the last century. And she goes, yeah, we're having like warm nuts. And I go like, is it like burnt peanuts or something? She goes, no, I think it is like chestnuts. And chestnuts, she's from Southern California and she had never even seen a chestnut because they don't grow here. And so she had to really like try to figure out what those nuts were. Then I asked like, what do you drink? Are you drinking anything? And she says, yes, we're having a cola. No American born person would refer to a Coke, we would call it, or a soft drink as a cola. We wouldn't say that. That was like a different time, like bleeding into her language even. So there were lots of those like trivial details that we were able to like explore together. And the next day, I'm driving on the freeway, I get a call from her and she calls me and she goes, oh my God. She goes, I can't believe it. The stuff that you found out about, like she would refer to specific instances. Like also I asked her about the scoreboard in the stadium that she was at, like how was that operated? She said it's like manually done with like, the little little boards that would be flipped over manually to keep track of the score. And she found that board, like she sent me a picture of it. So there was lots of stuff that blew our minds where, you know, she knew about, she ended up knowing about these things that for lived experience. She came back 2 more times for sessions, and we would go back into the same lifetime of Christina Garrick. I've never had this happen again, where a person would, in different sessions, go into the same lifetime. We would explore different parts of it. She was born in Germany and then came over on a boat to the United States. So we've explored that whole part, and then the part, you know, the latter part of her life after her son Lou had died. And so I asked her higher self, like, this is remarkable, but why do we have to go back to this lifetime over and over? And so it shared that she was to like mine the regression experience for verifiable details that she could go and fact check with living descendants and relatives of the Garrick family, and then write a book about it. And that because the book would have the subject of baseball and this level of like verifiability to it, that it would be accessible to a larger group of people to start to, you know, learn about reincarnation and that we are eternal. We're not just limited to this particular lifetime. And so she was able to, yeah, join the Hay House writing contest, and she won. And it's been made into like an amazing book. And I've just been working with some screenwriters of Halle Berry's production company. They're wanting to turn it into a like a movie. So hopefully that happens. You know, this is Los Angeles, and there's lots of projects going on all the time, and not all of them, you know, come to fruition. But I'm hoping. I mean, it would be such a great story to be watched on the big screen. Yes. So that is, and you know, that's the biggest one that I've experienced regarding, you know, being able to find an historical lifetime and then, you know, check the historical data for accuracy. But it happens quite a bit. There is also like other, like not as like spectacular, but it happens all the time where people go into lifetimes and, you know, we explore it and then they come out of it and they sometimes might say like, I made that up. I mean, that was crazy, right? And then we bunch the information into Google, and then, you know, a certain culture, a certain ceremony or habits or ways of dressing or, you know, food, like all the stuff that we might have explored comes up, and they're, you know, and we have our minds blown because like how could they have known that stuff? It's fascinating. So that, you know, historical stuff happens, and then also like physical healing happens a lot. That's also quite amazing. You know, it's like we have that power inside of us. And so it's not to say that, you know, you come in with this crazy physical ailments and you come out of a QHHT session and it's cleared and healed. It's because we're, you know, we all have these ailments for different reasons. You know, in spiritual circles, sometimes you hear this kind of thing where, oh, I've created it, you know, I must have created it, or you have created it, like kind of like blaming or finding fault. I don't see it that way. It's like we are put upon in this life by losing, you know, through all the programming, we lose contact with who we truly are. And at some point, you know, living our lives that way, being out of communion with our authenticity or our divine self, our body and our life starts to complain, and it starts to bring this to our awareness. And if we don't catch like the subtle whispers because we're not in relationship with ourselves, we don't hear these things, then we got to get like punched in the face, like, hey, you know, pay attention, stop what you're doing, pause, turn inward. You know, turning inward is done by crisis, you know, because we can no longer coast along and try to escape from what's happening. So, you know, physical ailments can be a part of that. But they're there for a reason. Like I had a woman, she was experiencing breast cancer. You know, this was other list of questions. Can this be healed? And so I'm talking to the higher self, and it says, yes, we can heal this now. And the reason, we always ask about the reason, like why it's there. And it said, well, the breast cancer is there for her to stop taking care of others. You know, it was in her breast. These are like, you know, the organs of nurturing others. She was like overextended in fixing the lives of her partner, of her kids, of the co-workers, of everybody but herself. And so she was given this to stop doing this, where she stopped, she had to stop extending her energy and focus on herself. Start to, I mean, in the beginning, it's like focusing on yourself because you got to like stop the crisis. But then with that comes like having to nurture yourself and to love yourself. So she was told like it was removed, the breast cancer, but if she would like fall off the wagon and start, going back into the habit of taking care of everybody else but herself, then it would come back. Yeah, so that happens. I have people with like vision that they have, like I had a woman, she was scheduled for like LASIK surgery because her vision was deteriorating badly. And it's a pity. I don't remember why she had that vision issue, but oftentimes people are told, especially if they hear as healers, that their vision is blurred or getting blurry. So again, for them to be able to focus on their inner world more, to place emphasis on that, and once they've been on that journey of doing that and the message has been clarified, we can often have the higher self clear their vision. So this particular woman came out of her session with like 20/20 vision. We were just mind blown about like how she was able to see clearly. I have like had people move bones back into place. What else? Like vision, bones, like eczema. One person said, I mean, I wasn't able to check this and verify this. They cleared HIV, you know. And and again, it's not like you make like a list for Santa Claus and we're just gonna like take care of it. It's just to find out what is happening, like underneath the hood of your life. What's the story behind it? Because sometimes, it cannot be cleared. It might be that they're still learning from it. It's still in doing its work and guiding a person back to themselves, or it could be there for like for a family member or a loved one to learn empathy and compassion, for instance. Or it can be just be the most appropriate expression of who they are here to be. Like I sometimes work with parents that struggle with their child's autism or being on the spectrum, and these people that are coming in on the spectrum, they're really like light workers. They're not here to be they're not here to be fixed. They're already super competent on different realms. If you've ever listened to the telepathy tapes, it's a beautiful podcast, where this amazing woman has done all this research in like how these people are super connected. They're more connected to the other realms than to their own body. But that's exactly what they came here for, like to bring in, a part of the brigade or the emissaries of the higher consciousness, to bring about this shift in paradigm for us to know that these realms exist and that we're all part of it. So yeah, sometimes things are not healed or clear because it's what's supposed to be the most, the best expression for them in this lifetime. It's, it's never like kind of wrong. It's just like understanding about why it's there and how life can be made more comfortable. Like another woman had lupus and talking to our higher self, and it goes, yes, we could fix it in the moment, but we're not going to. And so I'm going like, well, why do you have to be such a dick? Why can't you just fix it? And so it said, well, we'll clear 50% of it, but she needs a level of discomfort to force her out of the marriage that no longer serves her. And if she wouldn't be uncomfortable, she would not do it. So it was there, as a help, as a nudge for her to get out of the experience. And I can talk about my own life. Like 2 years ago, I went into a very intense, deep depression. Now looking back at it, it was a slow sort of decline, but once I got into it, it was just very bad. Like I even had like suicidal ideations. I didn't know how to, how to get through the day. And so I accessed a lot of help, including I was on like an SSRI, which is for me very, very helpful. I mean, there's different, kind of experiences regarding these things. For me, it was very helpful personally, to keep me out, to take me out of the depths of despair, and but also therapy, and also really listening to what was really going on inside of myself. I coming out of it, I completely restructured how I do life. Like I knew I was here to be of service, but I was still dealing with a level of unworthiness and not feeling good enough to where I was overcompensating a lot. I was doing like 8-9 hour sessions with people. I would throw everything I had at them to make sure that they could not have any kind of criticism towards me or the session, because that would trigger my sense of unworthiness. And so I was completely exhausting myself. And that I would get like Akashic Records healings or therapy, and I would hear the message, you need to nurture yourself the way that you nurture your client. I go, okay, well, I'm going on my days off, I'm going to nature, I'm doing all that stuff. That's as far as I understood like nurturing was for me, which was a good thing, but I didn't realize how I was overextending myself continuously. And so the depression allowed me to restructure my life to where I I have a way better capacity to listen to the subtleties of my inner self, the feelings that come up, the pacing of my life. I am a person, I need to wake up. I am, I have some ADHD tendencies, so my dopamine doesn't kick in until I've had my 2 cups of black tea, and I just need time in the morning to like gaze out. I have a beautiful backyard with trees to see all the sun shining on the leaves and to see the wind like move everything, um, and to just like put her around. And before I see my clients, and I need to be in nature. My sessions are limited to like 4 hours, so I tell people to bring in only a number, a set amount of questions, so I know we can tackle all of those. And my life is lived as much as I can now based on my joy and what is honoring to myself. So as a sign of, this is it's a very personal journey. I'm not saying this is what it's like for all people that experience depression. This is what it was like for me. Yeah. As a nudge to be in more relationship with myself. And that's basically what all the crises in my clients' lives is there for as well. Or sometimes it can be really random. Like I had one guy who had like thyroid issues, and the higher self said, oh no, it's the conditioner that he uses, it's just toxic, stop doing that. So there was no other learning to it than just like you're using like toxic products on your body. That also happens. Yeah. So that was healing. And then like alien lifetimes, I mean, there's so much of it. What pops in now? I mean, those are my favorite sessions, really. There is quite a bit of experiences where people would have memories in the current lifetime that of being like taken, or we call it abducted, but like going for a visit, and then stuff would happen to them. And a lot of those we found out was these would be like the aliens that look like your alien emoji in your phone, like typical like gray aliens. And what I've found out with a lot of these cases is that they are a future iteration of humanity from a different timeline, a timeline where humans in kind of in our current time decided that all the upheavals were caused by us having such fiery emotions, and that we need to be doing away with them. And so a particular timeline was entered where they started breeding out the ability to feel, and with that went the ability to procreate the way that we do. And so it became like a thing of cloning. And and they ended up like destroying their home planet as well. There was like this big, because it was out of balance, and their way of procreation, like the ability to clone, this stopped working. And so they were granted access with help of mantis beings. They're very wise beings, masters of time and space. They were, with the help of them, they were granted access to our current timeline and to work with souls that they contracted with, meaning before we come into this lifetime, we contracted with them to say, yes, I'm going to have this specific life, but also I'm going to have my body be made available for you to extract DNA, so you can help. I can help your particular race to, to be hybridized and to keep existing. So, so yeah, so that's what I've learned from that. A lot of these abductions that are happening, where like tissues are taken, there a lot of them, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them that I've experienced are this particular group of like future humans, that are here to work with the souls now. They're in these bodies that are, they give off DNA material, be it like eggs or like semen, whatever it is, for them to create this hybrid race, these hybrid races. And to my understanding, there are 4 generations of them now. I had one woman go into a future lifetime where she was one of those generations. She called herself part of the Essassani, and she was a she was a hybrid human, and like future human with all the amazing like capacities. What I've been told is that this hybridization, these new children, have amazing capacity of focusing emotional energy. Like emotional energy is very creative, and so as humans, we don't have mastered that capacity yet, but they do, because they also have this strong like mental capacity, and they're just like higher frequency. So that's what's happening. So that's a really exciting part of like learning about aliens. I mean, I often, what else? Like I had a girl come in and she was on the spectrum, and come to find out that she is like an Andromedan star seed, and her brain just needs to like function way faster than like processing speeds than kind of average human. And because all the stuff that she is here to do, like there's all these like streams of information are going through all the time, and she has the capacity to channel all that in this lifetime, but she need to be on the spectrum to be able to do that. What else? Alien stuff. I mean, I kind of like, it's funny like how there's like different generations that are coming in. Like I find that a lot of people that are coming into my session that are here as light workers, they have a big component to their personality now is this Pleiadian experience. It's like working, and these beings have experience like working with the heart and working through the heart. And that seems to be my generation, a lot of them. Like I was born in 1971, but that the younger generations, starseeds that are coming in, they're now more Andromedan, like Arcturian. Arcturian have been around for a while as well. What else is there that comes up? Oh, Lyran, yes, Lyran. Yes, that's coming in quite a bit. Lyran, we talked about this before we started. Those are known as like the feline looking people. And it's always like beautiful when I talk to these beings and we create, and there's connections are made with our earth history, like Egypt, the Sphinx, the pyramids, all of those things. Like when people go into lifetimes where they were, like I had a woman, she went to a lifetime as Hapsetsep. I'm not saying it right. I forgot her name, but she was a female, like pharaoh, and and it was remarkable because we got into like some names, and she said my father is called Ray, I think I remember. And then after this session, she went to research it, and it said that her father was like Ramses or something else. And she was like, oh shit, did I not get it right? But then she saw an image of a throne that was carved by or inscribed by Hatshepsut herself. And it said daughter of Re, which was the name that she had come up with. So it might have been a nickname or something. But she described that the Sphinx had a cat-like face because it was to honor the connection between the Lyrans, and it was very normal in those days that there were other beings from other galaxies intermingling with humanity at the time. That was very normal. And what else did she say? Like there is this chamber underneath the Sphinx where there's all these artifacts that can be used for communication with the different races, and it had been sealed off because humanity wasn't ready for for this yet. But once we reach a certain vibration, then people will be able to find it because it was like vibrationally like sealed off. So I love like the the lifetimes that we go into where, well, this happens a lot as well, like where people are like in some kind of indigenous life, and they're living with the land, and we're exploring it, and it's like simple dwellings and like beautiful like loving communities. And we might go like, well, what do your people believe? And they go like, we believe in the all that is, or the and then I ask, well, where does that come from? What's the source of it? Oh, like the sky people tell us, and the sky people come down, and they share with us knowledge about like not only how to work the land, but also like how how to take care of ourselves, and that we are part of a big universe, and that there's life everywhere. Those things were all normal, and it's if you look for it, you can find those descriptions in like the cave paintings or the hieroglyphs, or there's all kinds of like proof that I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s, whenever you listen to science or anthropology, or it was always kind of with like disdain for like the earlier people, like, well, they were a little stupid, they didn't really know. I think they just had a very different mindset. They were more connected, I think, often, and they might have still retained the quality to be able to, move large objects using sound. I think that was around for a long time before we went into like the Kali Yuga. This is the time that we're in right now, where we lost complete access. We went into the most densest, iteration or expression of humanity, where we lost access to the parts of our consciousness where we were more aligned with being able to use energy to move things or to heal, or I mean, it's coming back now, but yeah, I find it really satisfying to find out about those things that I always kind of felt like they were true, or like there was more magic to life than just like the boring humdrum of survival, like throughout the millennia. But that there have been, Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, when we go into those lifetimes, where things were different. Atlantis, when I talk about it, it's like it was really shitty towards the end, but there have been really beautiful times, like more in the beginning, where people were more like in tune with their higher capacities, but then they use it for wrong purposes towards the end. So those lifetimes are really fun. Or when I'm speaking with like an alien, and a person's voice changes and they get very, very scientific about like healing or DNA, or like they use jargon that that the person would in their normal life would never know about. Um, what else? I remember this one. I mean, I remember this one lifetime. This woman, she was a reptilian, and she told me about like she originated from the Draco system, but that a faction of her people had like turned very dark, and they were doing what you probably know about, like they would just like go and pillage other planets, including Earth, and harvest like the energies and stuff, and resources and all that stuff. So but she wasn't of that particular mindset, and so she was a renegade reptilian that incarnated onto planet Earth. I think she took on a body, and this was in a different timeline than our current history, but she worked in churches because she was like the pastor or the pastor's helper, because she could see into people's energy, like anatomy, and she would like sound into particular like nexuses or nodes within their energy system to help them release and to help them grow. And she would have access to to the congregation, so she would like do that for people, like to be of service. To help consciousness on the planet. And she's a sound healer in this current lifetime. And I thought that was so, deliciously specific, like how, like where she came from and like what she's doing. I love finding out about those very unique life purposes, or people that are here now to, like another woman, she, like people that are starting to speak light language during their sessions, or a woman that would come in and she just started, not in the session, but she'd been doing this. She would start like flicking her hand and doing these things. And we found out that she was editing, energy systems, like her own energy system, but also other people's energy systems. So, I mean, as we're talking, like different things pop in. I mean, everything is so, I mean, I think it's really beautiful, like to find out about those things. What else? God, there's so much. Yeah, maybe I've run dry. I can't think of anything else right now.
That was already a lot. But yeah, what you were saying about the Sphinx, that's why she is aligned with the Leo constellation, right? And if the people were so dumb before, then how could they build such an amazing thing that is aligned to a specific constellation, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, I was at a conference where they were diving into like old knowledge and old ways, and they were just baffled by these perfectly shaped granite vases. I mean, the mathematics were just perfect, like perfect, and they couldn't figure out, because even now with our tools we couldn't make that. And they were going into the mathematics of it, how like it was, and I was like, hello, it's sound, sound wave, sound. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And also, like, well, if you ask me about my perception on that, it was, yes, the vibrational frequency used. And then also, like, with the right frequency, you can also kind of melt the things a little bit. And that's the reason they fit so perfectly together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
so
those abilities are waking up again. There's now people that can do these things. These people are really there. They're coming online now. Yeah, that's what's happening. Telepathy, telekinesis. What else? Levitation, even. Yeah, I mean, those things are they're happening. Yeah.
yeah, they will increase now
Yeah.
because we're now coming out of the Kali Yuga. If you ask me, we are already entering the golden age. And also, what I wanted to ask you about is the solar flare,
Okay.
because I'm sure you have heard about that.
Yes. So yes, solar flares. I mean, the sun is our, is like it's like a part of source that is spewing out all these wonderful energy codes. It's been doing this forever. I don't know about you, but for the last few years, I've been really feeling cold to be out in the sun and to just like take it in, or to sun gaze. It feels very nurturing to me. Um, Especially since November of 2023. I think I heard there was like in a session, there was a big increase in the vibration of the energy codes that are being, kind of spewed out to the planets in our solar system, again, to help consciousness like elevate or to be raised. So that's what that is to me. The solar flares are like big packets of energy codes. Yeah, and I've also
Exactly.
been in sessions where there's predictions being made about all kinds of Earth predictions. Where solar flares might be disrupting our electrical grid to the point where we have to be rewilding again to live in smaller communities and to go back to farming the land. In tandem with these heightened abilities of telepathy and healing and all the stuff. So um, yeah, I mean, I've heard about like different cataclysms. I don't know, like we're definitely in a precarious time if listening to those things, but what's going to happen exactly, I don't know. I've heard like a variety of things. um I mean, we're definitely moving into a higher consciousness. I've had it confirmed over and over again that it's happening. It's there's a lot of attention to planet Earth right now because this project is like evolving. And so what was I going to say? Like sometimes I get people like their lives feel so shitty and they go like, well, when is the ascension going to happen in 5D? Like, when am I going to wake up and it's all beautiful? And I warn against it because it's really about making your life work for you right now, to really access the joy right now. And you do that by loving yourself. And that is what's going to bring in the 5D. By you loving yourself, you're purging yourself of the low frequencies of brutality and violence and judgment. And that's going to like pop you back into your natural state, which is source, goddess, universe. And so instead of waiting for a day to come, I mean, yes, there are events happening where there's a big uptick in the energy that's coming in, but you're just going to make it harder for yourself to live through that, because then it's like the elastic band is being stretched to the max. Instead of you like doing the work now, like loving yourself and upgrading and raising your own frequency to match the vibrations that are coming in, you're not going to have as much of a rough ride when that comes in. And that's like the latest prediction that I've posted something about on YouTube. This woman was going into a prediction about that, or a higher self did, that there was something that was going to happen to the west coast of the United States. That was a good thing, but it would be very hard for a lot of people because they were not ready. They don't want to change, and change meaning being more heart centered and loving, instead of like the way that we've been for so long.
Yes, so many, many, many things popped up for me when you were talking. So, first of all, yes, I totally agree with you. And I wanted to share with you because you were talking earlier also about responsibility and blaming yourself for whatever has happened or was going on or is going on. And I believe, or in my opinion, from my point of view, you need authority over your life so that you can take proper responsibility, kind of. You make your own decisions based on your heart. That's your authority, that's your creatorship. And then you're able to take the responsibility for whatever arises from that. But just
Yeah.
because you're doing it from a point of knowingness.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
So, and then also you said about being in the now and giving yourself whatever you require right now, which is basically the ego integration after the fragmentalization that happens when people tell you you are not good enough, you should be doing another thing, or you should be behaving differently. So it's about being in the now with joy, what you also said, being living from the heart, letting
Yeah.
your heart sing as loud as it wants to sing, and
Yes.
then taking responsibility for whatever arises from that.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Yes. I mean, it's life is, it gets more beautiful. Like even through going through the challenges, at least we would have, the perspective now that it's happening for us, even how dire it might be, like there is something in it that will like key you in or tap you into like parts of yourself that you have not yet gone into. You can do that through joy, but it's also still happening through the crises, or like difficult experiences. I don't know about yourself, but I used to be very sort of imprisoned within myself because I was so worried about how people saw me. And you know as I'm getting older and loving myself more, like I do all kinds of things that I would have been like so embarrassed by, like growing up. You know, I mean,
Just like having this conversation, for example.
also like really simple things like, before I would like not leave the door, and if my hair was good, my outfit was like correct and all that stuff. And now I just schlep myself to like the pet store down the street in my PJs, like, hey people, like I haven't like brushed my teeth or anything. I just want to get my cat's food. It's just very simple. Or like dancing in public, in places that are not like designed for dancing, or like jumping in the creek naked, or just in my underwear, or like whatever comes up. Like I don't know, like just following what just feels good, what might go against what is like the idea of like proper, or like, yeah. Um, I mean, it's just little things that personally give me a lot of joy, you know.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the same way with me, like for me, it's right now, it's more about having this type of conversations and sharing my truth, you know. It's like there is a lot that I've experienced, and there is a lot that I have experienced and have known of, you know what I mean? And it's like trying to get it out in a way that feels comfortable, that feels joyful, that makes my heart sing. That has been my path now recently more. It's about yeah, stopping the gaslight, basically gaslighting myself, right? Like you talked about that as well, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you had also an experience, a past life, where you were the narcissist kind of person, and it was a twin flame kind of thing because your
Yeah.
soul divided in two. So please tell
Yeah.
us about that.
Yeah, that was fascinating. And it was so such a teaching moment for me on like how we do things as soul. I One of my past lives, I was raised in an orphanage. I was an orphan, a boy, and there wasn't a lot of nurturing conditions there. There was not enough food. There was just harshness in the staff, and just it was like chaos and like violence. Um, so I learned to survive, like doing all that stuff, like to be doing those things. And I became, yes, to became an asshole. Like I became an asshole. And I married this woman who I was an asshole to. Like I bullied her. And I think in that life I was meant to like make the journey into the heart more, but I didn't. And then I died from a heart attack. Um, and then, after you leave the body in a session, we always like reflect back on the life and see what we learned and stuff. But as I was coming out, I realized that my soul had split off into both the man and the woman at the same time. And it was almost like, well, it was like there was no judgment about any of these experiences. Like, oh my God, I've been such an asshole. Now I've got to be like punished for this by like sometimes people relate to karma like punishment, which it's not. Um, no, I have to be a really bad person. I have to be like a victim in another lifetime. Um, but my soul realized that I had just done two experiences at once. And it was just like, check, done and done. Okay, that was great. I just got these two experiences, moving on to the next one. There was no judgment about like what a bad person I was or that poor woman. It was all like, no, I wanted to experience what it was like to be bullied and to be bullied, but also to be the bully at the same time. And then moving on.
Exactly. So what I tend to send is that we are all the victims of victims, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't treat other people this way if that wasn't your only experience, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I love how you say that about karma, because the way I see karma is like, okay, you live here, you have a lifetime where you are an asshole or whatever you want to call that. And then you go up and I had this regression where I was like, oh my God, I fucked it up. That was not good. Oh my gosh, what did I do? And so on. And so I come there and everybody's waiting for me. And I'm like, oh, people, I'm so sorry, And everybody was, in my eyes, they were laughing. They were really laughing. And they were like, ah, come on, please. That was awesome. You played your role very good. It was most like a compliment, like, yeah, you did it perfectly. That was it. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, okay. And karma is like, you go there, then you see the movie, basically, and then you will be experiencing everything from both sides, all the
Yeah.
feelings, everything you caused, everything that was caused. And
Yeah.
then you are like, oh my gosh, I know I can do that better. Coach, give me karma and pull me back into the game because I know I can do this better. And then
Yes.
you go.
Yeah. It's like teaching moments. It's like teaching moments. I had another lifetime where I was again an asshole. It sounds like I've done a lot of asshole lives, but I swear it's not. But I was a part of either the Spanish or the French Inquisition, and I was like merely judging people to death for like being wise women or wise people, or just because they were accused of something. And in that lifetime, I realized that I was this is really bad. This was not okay. And so I took on a lot of shame and like feeling bad about myself, and I ostracized myself from the community, and I died like in squalor in like a shack in the woods, completely like deserted, isolated. And the judgment that I had placed upon myself was that I was unforgivable for doing those things, and so that's what I died with. And so then I realized in this lifetime, I had brought in that judgment about myself to experience the separation from source. Judgment is what separates us from source. And so I had brought in that severe measure of separation by judging myself as unforgivable to help me be on this journey of like how to recover my connection to source. So it just created the karma, for me to like, it's like the material to work with for me to learn how to recover myself so I can help others do the same thing. Yeah. So it was all purposeful. It was not because, like, oh, there's a flaw in the system, it's just carried over, whoopsie, I that was very purposeful. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's coming back to self-love. No
Yes.
matter what happens, love yourself, love yourself, love
Yes.
yourself, right?
It's really about, and this, I mean, it's like a great game that we're in, yes. One way, if you want to go into like the fearful way of looking at it, yes, you can say that Earth is a prison planet because of all the insidious like controlling mechanisms, the reptilians and all that stuff, and the leaders and all the food systems and all that stuff. Yes, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. But don't forget, we've all opted into this to come into this place. We're not victims of anything. This is our souls. Our souls are, we're always in the right place in the right moment to learn and to experience what we came here to experience. And so, and what we're doing now, we're now in the game of like learning how to undo all that stuff, like all the control and all the things. We've had enough of the learning experience of being, encapsulated in these very dense beliefs of that we're just physical bodies. We're completely ruled by fear. We're now changing this, and everybody has the power to do this for themselves. And again, this is done by loving yourself, by finding your joy, and to want to be in relationship with all the different parts of yourself. Not only are we changing our own experience doing that, but we're also clearing the harmonics of the collective consciousness, for there to be higher frequencies and to be better solutions and better relationships, as a whole, when you do this for yourself. I really think that's how it works.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say, like, love yourself and then start expanding that and expand it so far that it can encapsulate everything that you would judge as negative. Because
Yes,
if you're seeing it somewhere, it's also inside of you. So if you heal it within yourself and you love this part of yourself, it's going to stop showing up in the world, and there will be no war anymore once we are in balance and in this kind of trinity, right?
exactly. Yeah. I still have quite a little bit of work to do though. I'm realizing.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the point. It's like, and in regards to this solar flare, have you heard of the event that is going to be the solar flare? The moment that everybody says this is what changed everything. This
Yes.
type of.
Yeah. Yeah, basically that. So yes, like a big event happening, and it's not clear to me what's going to actually come from it, but it's I mean, I've heard two sides of it, both the shutdown of like the electrical grids and stuff, but more so like a big awakening for people to click into their innate like powers. Like it's a big upgrade that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
have you heard that it's a reflection from the light that is on Earth, that is growing on Earth? Like a
no.
critical mass kind of effect. Maybe you can ask next time when you are
Say it again. What is it exactly? It's what?
um like the solar flare, this moment that will change everything, is basically just caused as a type of reflection from the light that is on Earth, that is growing until it reaches this kind of critical mass, that it
Oh,
gets just reflected.
wow, no, I haven't heard that. I'm gonna ask about that. Yeah. Oh,
Cool,
nice.
let me know.
Yeah, so real. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's what I hear. I mean, I've heard so many different predictions through the years. Like it's now, um, I used to be, it would pull me out of my now space, and I would go into fear about things. But now, um, having being more centered in my life right now, I might go into fear a little bit, but then it like passes. It goes away, and I'm back into joy of living in the here and now, and to know that I'm eternal, as is everybody else. Yeah, and that we're here to love ourselves.
Oh my God. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much for this amazing, awesome, and extremely interesting interview.
I had such great questions. Like this is really amazing. Because I went way deeper than I've gone with other podcasts where kind of very interesting, more surface stuff. But I loved your questions. I can tell that you've had, because we don't know each other yet. I can tell that you've had so many interesting experiences yourself that make me very curious about you. That you were asking these questions from.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I hope that you will be back.
Yeah, I'll be back. Yes, we can talk more for sure.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so I will be posting your links down there in the description box for people to find out more about you. And I know that you have an event coming up, which is a group session in LA. Talk about that, please.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So this is happening. I don't know when you're posting this, but there's one group session this Friday, April 11th. This is in Malibu. This is in person only, though. So it's not for people like all over the world. But there's going to be another one in June, I think, for the solstice. And it's facilitated by Den Meditation, but that's a global thing. So you can tune in from anywhere. There's like access to replays. I can leave that link as well. That's the next one that's going to be virtual. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we will be linking that also down below.
Oh, thank you. Exciting.
Okay. Yeah, amazing. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the light that you are being. And yeah, have a blessed rest of the week.
Thank you so much. I love you.